What if the very thing people call awakening is not always peaceful but destabilizing, sometimes even overwhelming? Spiritual awakening is often portrayed as light, clarity, and expansion. But beneath that surface lies a quieter truth rarely spoken about. Not every awakening feels like enlightenment. Some feel like they are collapsing. And this is where the real story begins. Psychiatrist and transpersonal psychology pioneer Dr. Stanislav Grof, co-founder of the field of transpersonal psychology and author of Spiritual Emergency, When Personal Transformation Becomes a Crisis with Christina Grof, observed that intense spiritual experiences can sometimes mimic psychological breakdowns. He introduced the term spiritual emergency to describe moments when expanded consciousness overwhelms the nervous system rather than integrating smoothly. What looks like awakening from the outside can feel like confusion, anxiety, or even detachment from reality on the inside. But why does this happen? Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist and founder of analytical psychology, hinted at this tension long before modern spirituality became mainstream. He described the process of individuation, the integration of unconscious material into conscious awareness, as necessary but psychologically intense. Jung warned that confronting the unconscious without grounding can destabilize the ego. In simpler terms, when hidden emotional material rises too quickly, the mind can struggle to hold it. And here's where it gets even more unsettling. Many modern spiritual teachers refer to something called spiritual bypassing, a term popularized by Buddhist teacher and psychotherapist John Welwood. He described it in his writings as the tendency to use spiritual ideas to avoid unresolved emotional wounds. Instead of healing trauma, individuals may unconsciously float above it, dismissing pain as illusion or ego, while the underlying wound remains active beneath the surface. This creates a split between spiritual insight and emotional reality. So what happens when awakening accelerates faster than emotional healing? Research in trauma psychology, including the work of Dr. Judith Herman, Trauma and Recovery, shows that unprocessed trauma stored in the nervous system can resurface when a person enters states of heightened awareness or vulnerability. In spiritual contexts, this can feel like emotional flooding, identity confusion, or sudden loss of meaning. Not because awakening is harmful, but because the system holding it is being stretched beyond its current capacity. And yet, there is another layer. Many practitioners in contemplative traditions, including Buddhist monk and author Jack Kornfield, emphasize that spiritual awakening is not a single moment of transcendence, but a long process of integration. Kornfield often reminds students that, after enlightenment, the laundry still needs to be done. A grounded way of saying that insight alone does not dissolve human psychology. Without integration, insight can remain unstable. So what does all this reveal? It suggests that spiritual awakening is not always a rise into light, but sometimes a descent into unresolved inner material. Old fears, suppressed grief, and fragmented identity structures resurface for integration. This is why some people report feeling lost, disconnected, or emotionally raw during their awakening phase, even when they are technically progressing. And here is the part most people miss. The danger is not awakening itself, but romanticizing it without understanding its psychological demands. Spiritual awakening is often described as liberation, but in reality it can also be a deep restructuring of the mind and nervous system. When awareness expands faster than emotional integration, the experience can feel chaotic rather than blissful. Thinkers like Grof, Jung, Welwood, Herman, and Kornfield all point to a shared truth. Awakening is not only about transcendence, but about integration. Without grounding, even profound insight can become overwhelming. True awakening, therefore, is not escape from human experience, but the ability to remain present within it.